Hello, my friends. Andy coming to you live from Orange County, California. And we're going to talk about Sidney Powell and what a great American she is. I don't know, conservative Christians, conservative Americans have been hearing, well, I don't know, because I don't watch CNN, NBC, but I've heard through the grapevine that they are losing their mind, and they're saying that there's all kinds of chaos going on in the Trump legal teams and all this BS that's going on. Well, I'm going to come on and hopefully straighten out a few things, and I'll go into a little bit more detail about why I can have an opinion on this and why you may want to listen to what I have to say. And so I'll break that all down. That way it makes a little bit more sense. I'm only going to talk about one sponsor right now because we need your help. I need your help really badly to get some equipment for a mobile broadcast unit. And then we're going to go to some other locations and get some man training from a couple great resources. So we're going to be doing that so that we can come back and discuss more about what it is we're going to be doing here in the United States to really out the voice of conservative Christians in our country. We have woken a sleeping giant. On Saturday, I was in Huntington Beach at the curfew rally, which happened at 10:01 here in California. Hundreds, if not thousands, of people were in the streets of Huntington Beach, and we said, "Come and get us, Gavin Newsom." I broadcasted live from the event, and then yesterday in Yorba Linda had another freedom rally. Again, we had Gavin Newsom recall desk there and a large number of people there just to say this is BS. We need to get to the bottom of the election issues that are going on right now and support our great president. So what I need you to do is go to uspatriotproject.com, uspatriotproject.com. And those of you that have been watching the show for the last couple of weeks, you're probably saying, wasn't it the OC? Wasn't it the California? Yeah, I know. And so based on what my legal team is doing as they're preparing to get our nonprofit, we'll have a number for you and all that kind of stuff. It was decided because we all know, based on what's happening right now, the progress that we're making and putting this project together, is that it's going to very quickly go from local to state to countrywide. So we're still going to start locally, but why name it something that we know is probably going to change in a couple months? And so why not go to the end result, which we're hoping for, is have a complete United States of America Patriot Project that spreads and goes through different churches and other types of things as we go on. It already has indications that it's exactly what's going to happen. All right, we're going to have a couple different shows on the broadcasting network that we're creating, and you're gonna love it. It's gonna be fantastic. It's going to be something similar to, I have Newsmax on over here. I haven't watched Fox News since the election, by the way. And I was a huge Fox News fan. I tried watching once with Tucker, and that was the day that he went off on Sidney Powell. And so that's why I think it's important for me to come on and do a little bit of show on why she's such a great American and what's going on, in my opinion. And also, I'm going to have a little bit from Dan Bongino. He has a very similar opinion to me, and help you understand why what they're telling you in the news media, if you're still watching CNN, Fox, the others, MSDNC, and all those other broadcast networks out there, and try to straighten out some of the misconceptions that they're giving you, because they don't have no idea what they're talking about. There's even judges and lawyers, apparently lawyers, who are saying things that are completely untrue. They're complete lies, by the way, if not completely untrue. All right. So it would be great if you would comment, say hi. If you're watching live or watching the replay, let me know that you're watching. Let me know what your opinion is. Ask me any questions you might have based on what it is we're talking about. Or if you have something you want to talk about, feel free to put it in the comment section. I'm begging you to put some comments in the comment section, because that's how the video gets out, even though we're on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, that they get throttled, or my show gets throttled on all the platforms. I have tons of people say, well, I used to get notified when you went live all the time. Now I don't get notified at all. And I can see that I'm subscribed. I can see that I asked to be notified, and yet still I don't get notified. So the social media oligarchs, or whatever you call those people, tyrants, are even my little show. Even my little show with only a few thousand people to watch is being throttled by social media. On Twitter, almost all my videos get blocked after I get done with the live. They all get that gray box in front of them. So commenting, saying hi, subscribing, sharing, that's what I need you to do. In addition to going to uspatriotproject.com and picking out a form of support financially would be fantastic. It would be great if you would do that. I would really, really appreciate it. All right. Hey, Maureen, nice to see you. So question, is Trump now allowing for Biden's transition? Yes. I just saw something. Yes. Which is perfectly fine. It's just that, this is one thing he can do that later on they can't say that he didn't do, because it really doesn't change anything. He still is not president-elect, legally president. I know that some news medias are calling him president-elect. I know the AP is doing so, but they are not the electoral college. It needs to certify all the elections throughout the country, and then once they're all certified, then they name him as presidential-elect. Now, in the past, of course, when the president, a nominee, has so many votes and it's very clear, then they just go ahead and say, we assume he's going to be the nominee and going to be the president-elect, and they go forward. But I think on your question is, he has gone ahead and said, let's do that. And, I mean, either way, it doesn't hurt, right? Whoever is socialist, Marxist, communist people that he's putting in place, come over and get what knowledge and what preparations they can. If they already come into the White House and begin work, nothing will change if President Trump ends up being the president and he gets 4 more years. So, but it does take one less thing away. It doesn't matter what he does, right? We know that. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what he does. They still hate him, and they're still going to lie about everything that's going on right there. All right, so let's talk about why Sidney Powell is such a great American, and why you just simply cannot believe what you're hearing on social media and the what would be considered the news media if you're watching any of the stations, including Fox, which I haven't watched since the election day. And that is that there's chaos between these two camps. And these are literally two camps. And I kind of wrote out some notes here. I'm going to go to them in just 1 minute. But let me tell you why, in case you don't know who I am and you've not watched and you've not heard my story. I'm a former police officer, 21 years with Anaheim Police Department. As a police officer, I did a lot of work with canine in tactics and use of force. I've taught classes all over the world on all those subject matters, including use of force and tactics and that kind of stuff. I investigate wrongdoing for the most part in relationship to law enforcement versus the average citizen or a criminal case. And I'm active, and I have been active in the last 10 years in investigating cases. I have testified in federal court and state court in probably 200 cases, somewhere in that neighborhood. I don't know exactly right now. I should have looked it up possibly. But there's probably very few people on the planet who's testified and participated in the investigation of court cases that actually go to federal court and where there's testimony, and I testify and questioned by both the prosecution and the defense and the judge, almost every case, hundreds of times. And there's very few. I've probably been actually in court on cases more than most attorneys who conduct either defense or prosecutions. They often don't end up in court. There's often, if anything, they either go to a hearing and tell the judge, well, we've decided to settle this case instead of 30 years, where we offer him 10 years. And then the judge approves that sentencing based on whatever information. And that's about it as far as they see it as court. But as far as a court case where the case is built, the questioning and questions are going to be built in a suppression hearing or a jury hearing or a jury case, or even a case involving just the judge with no jury. I've been involved in all those types of cases from beginning to end, from the beginning of an investigation to the filing of the charges to the court case. And again, both in front of a jury and in front of a judge on suppression hearings and that kind of stuff. And so when I heard that, when I saw on Twitter, I think it was yesterday, I saw on Twitter, either the president or somebody had said that Sidney Powell is separate from our Trump team. Those aren't the exact words, but just pretty much that they were working on two separate things, and Sidney Powell was not part of the President Trump legal team. Everybody, oh my God, there's chaos. Oh my God. And that didn't even enter my mind. I said, wow, that makes total sense. I'm wondering why they didn't do that earlier, is what I was going, is that you have, based on what I'm seeing in regard to interviews, they're working on two separate cases. I'm going to go to my whiteboard in just 1 minute to explain. I want to ask again, there's a number of people watching. Please, would you comment and say hi. Tell me where you're watching from, or like Maureen, if you have a question, please put in a question. I'll do my best to answer it. If I don't know the answer, I won't answer. I won't answer a question if I don't know the answer and not confident that my answer is correct. And I'll tell you I don't know, but I'll find out. All right. So ask me any question, not about like, what type of underwear I'm wearing or something like that. But in relationship, you can, I guess. But in relationship to the actual topic of the show would be best. But again, you can ask anything. What platform I'm using, what camera I'm using, what mic I'm using, all that stuff is also ready to go. But comments are important. And you just watching is fine. And I know some of you are driving, but it would be great if you would just say, hi, watching from Walla Walla, Washington, or Saskatoon, whatever you're watching in Canada. All right. So that would be great. All right. So now, so again, just understand in relationship to they're working on two separate cases. I don't know why everybody lost their shot yesterday and today. And again, I'm hearing it from other Twitter posts and Facebook posts, and then the little bit I'm watching Newsmax and that type of stuff. That's the name of the company, right? Newsmax TV. There's everybody's losing their mind that there's everything's going wrong. Obviously, the evidence isn't present. Obviously, all this stuff that is total lies and totally not true. It's really laughable because I investigate these cases and then I work with the attorneys on these cases and then I go and testify, and it's just funny here. Like what. And I want to know who the attorneys are that they've hired to be spokespeople or, be interviewed on these shows and say, what? Where did you learn that? What case were you working on where that happened? Like, I almost want to say that's impossible that you even have that opinion based on what just common knowledge is. You can watch, what's one of the TV shows that has to do with Law and Order. You're watching Law and Order, and just watching Law and Order, you would know, like, none of that happens. As a matter of fact, I want the evidence. You got Tucker Carlson. He just pissed me off the other day. I want the evidence. I want Sidney to give me the evidence. And I'm listening. I'm going, I'm trying to remember when you had any attorney in a homicide, in a sex crime, in a whatever kind of crime, OJ crime. Now, they come on and they say crap. That doesn't mean that they're giving you evidence. I mean, look at the Russian collusion hoax. Look at the Ukraine crap, right? There are times like Adam Schiff came on and said, I have evidence that Donald Trump is a Russian spy. It's clear. It's right there. It's in plain sight. Yet there was no evidence that Donald Trump, right? So you hear them say they have evidence, like Adam Schiff and these Democrats, but they don't have evidence. You wouldn't, if he did have evidence, he wouldn't say that he had evidence, most likely, because you don't want the other side to know exactly what it is you have and have not. And so him going on and saying the evidence when he didn't was a trick or a potential trick or an attempt at just swaying the American public that he had some kind of evidence that he never had. He was lying. Right. So it is really strange that people just simply want to be continued to be lied to. Like, please lie. You're almost like saying, if you're one of the Democrats that I see tweeting and posting on Facebook and that kind of stuff, is that you're saying, please lie to us more, as if you have not been lied enough for the last 4 or 5 years. Like, they please lie to us more. Like, they've never caught on that. Okay, well, I thought you said that Donald Trump was a Russian spy, but you never came up with anything. They've never said, we've never seen anything ever in the 4.5, 5 years that Donald Trump was a Russian spy. But you kept telling us he was. Why come you never came up with it? That Joe Biden's family is not involved in of getting paid millions of dollars in all these countries, and then 10 to 50% is given. Now, where does that information come? It didn't come from any attorneys that are working on any cases, because right now there's no case, right? But it's simply just people that they've leaked it to in regard to the press. That is different, right? That is leaked information to the press. That is not evidence that's being held by an attorney that's working on a case that they're trying to go forward and convince a judge or a jury that this thing happened, right? So that doesn't happen. Leaked information. Well, look, we got evidence of this. You're talking about two different things. You're talking about leaked information to the press as opposed to actual evidence that's being used in a court of law in a case. All right. So I hope that was clear. I hope that makes sense. So let's talk about these two cases. I'm going to move my mic hopefully over here so I don't fade away. But you essentially had two different entities working on election fraud and the mishandling of ballots and that kind of stuff. And so you have the Trump team who's working on several different cases in cities and states and counties, or states and counties throughout the United States of America. Now, there may be some things happening outside of other countries, but essentially the Trump team, she was just on her name. I forgot her name. And Rudy, Jenna and Rudy are working on state, county, across the United States, election fraud in each one of these counties where you have absentee ballots that were pristine, never folded, never put in an envelope, where the only Biden's name is checked. Those are fraudulent, by the way, because they have to be folded and put inside the envelope for them to be valid. But none of them were. So that's like one issue. Then you have where they were not able to observe. They had to be 100 feet away and observe people 100 feet away as to what they were doing with their hands and the back to the observer. Like that's illegal and wasn't allowed. You had a bunch of improprieties, and then there's a bunch of affidavits. I think they're in the 200s now. They're 100 something, and now I believe, if I'm not wrong, there's like over 200 affidavits for people saying, yeah, we were told to fraudulently approve ballots. We are told to fraudulently take these ballots from here to there. We are told to fraudulently put addresses on when addresses weren't there, only when they said Biden. So you have the Trump team working on these cases within the states and the counties that are in the United States of America. All right. So that's a team of, and we're not talking about just Rudy and Jenna. There's obviously more people that are working behind the scenes. You got clerks, you got paralegals, you got and private investigators that are working for these people. So there's a lot of people involved, all working on this one thing. On the other hand, you had Sidney Powell working on mostly Dominion election software issues in other countries. Right? Her case that she's working on is far more broad and completely different, for the most part, than what's happening here. And it would make no sense to muddy up the waters by both these teams working together to try to do two things that are entirely different. And so when I heard that they separated and said, okay, we have our team, and then Sidney's doing something else, which is entirely different. They weren't firing her. They weren't saying that she was an idiot. They weren't saying she was a moron like you're hearing and I'm seeing on social media. They were just saying, hey, we're working on two different things. We need to separate so that she can work on this international issue in regard to Dominion software, which involves Canada, Venezuela, Germany, and possibly a couple other countries out there that I'm not aware of, that are in other countries. And there's a whole series of affidavits that are in regard to simply Dominion software and all the other entities that worked with Dominion software. You also had fraud in relationship to county employees getting paid money to make sure that the Dominion software was used and purchased at hundreds of millions of dollars for these counties. So you have a whole bunch of working parts that are completely different than what the Trump team is working on. So the separation of the two makes total sense. Again, in the cases that I worked on, I had cases involving narcotics, drug smuggling across the U.S. border. And inside the car, there's 3 or 4 different people. Each one of them have an attorney. You have one guy who's involved in actually the connection with some type of drug cartel. And then you have the other 3 that are essentially just like, oh, we were just along for the ride. We didn't know this guy was right. And so you have this team of attorneys with the driver, who is also the guy working with the cartel, who's going to have a completely different case than the other 3 who are simply say, hey, we were picked up at the border. We just needed a ride. But we were in the car that was carrying the 500 pounds of fentanyl. And so they have a different strategy. They have a different set of evidence. They have again, their case is different than the other guy who's involved with the Colombian kingpins, right? Or drug lords or something like that. And so you would have different cases going on. And I've testified in cases like that where I'm working with these 3 as opposed to this one, or this one as opposed to those 3. And I know nothing about those other 3 cases. But the only person I work with is the one attorney that's involved in, the international part of the case. I don't ever see these people. And so there has to be a separation, or else you begin to muddy up the water and it's not as clear. And in some cases, you might have completely 2 different court cases that are happening. So it's possible that in regard to my scenario is that there's one court case involving the one guy with the attorney with his attorneys, and you never see those other 3 people. they kind of get mentioned somewhere along the case. If it's a jury trial or something like that, they get mentioned that there's 3 other people in the car, but their case is separate, and there's maybe some jury direction or instructions that are given. Say, yeah, there are 3 other people there. It turns out that their involvement was slightly different than my client, and then there's all kinds of different things that can happen. But you can simply have 2 different trials. So you have that one trial, and then you come back, and now you have a trial involving the other 3 separately from the other one. And in some cases, they can't know what happened in the other cases. So again, I think most of you that are watching have heard this kind of stuff happening on Law and Order on television. And so then when you hear these things in the media, again, I don't even know what to call them, because it's not, I guess you can call it media, because media means nothing. They're not reporters. They're not newscasters. They're not anything that we used to know as investigative reporters. There's nothing like that happening other than maybe Dan Bongino and what's happening on, gosh darn it, what's the name of the news I'm watching? West something? Hold on, Newsmax. Newsmax, where I do see them actually doing some investigative reporting. But for the most part, they are, conservative for the most part, leaning towards Trump. And so, again, they're the same, except for they actually talk about some of the things that's happening on CNN. They play clips and that kind of stuff. So I hope that clears things up. It's not, and based on what I've heard Sidney Powell speak about and tweet and other stuff, she didn't say, oh yeah, those idiots over, they fired. She's not saying that. She's just saying her case involves this, and she's still on point. She's still making a lot of sense. So just in case you think I'm the only one who thinks this way and that kind of stuff, I'm going to go ahead and play a clip of Dan Bongino. And again, I see there's just far more than 2 people that are watching. I'm going to beg of you to comment and say hi. I know I have a lot of people that watch that don't dare show anybody that they're watching because they don't want to get fired from their jobs, which is really kind of sad, unfortunately. But please, if you would, if you can, if you feel safe, say hi, tell me where you're watching from, and ask any questions you might have in regard to what it is we're talking about or anything else. All right. So I hope this all made sense as to why this is happening. Hi, Kathy. Nice to see you. Thank you for commenting. I appreciate that. As to why there needed to be 2 separate camps to keep things a little bit clear. So there isn't any and also the messaging. If you have Sidney Powell and Rudy and Jenna talking, and that's probably kind of where they got the idea too. They had the press briefing where Rudy's her dye was coming down the side of his face, and you had Jenna, and then you had Sidney, and they're all 3 speaking. And if you watch that news, and I could see that the messaging was not clear and could cause some confusion. Where she's talking about Dominion software, they're talking about local races and some of the improprieties about Joe Biden was the only box selected and none of the other boxes were selected, or they were pristine ballots that should have been folded and put in an envelope that weren't folded and put in an envelope, to all the other kinds of stuff that was happening, all the other 200 affidavits that are reporting all kinds of things that happened. And then when you're talking about the 2 things in one single press conference, now the viewer, the messaging becomes complicated, and the viewer is trying to say, okay, does that have to do with the Dominion side, or does that have to do with the county clerk in Philadelphia being paid $1 million to make sure that the software is being used? And so now you see how this can get confused in the messaging. This way, Sidney has her ability to speak about it and say certain things, and it doesn't muddy up, Rudy and Jenna's messaging as to what it is that they're looking for. So those are all the reasons why it had to be separate. They had to have 2 separate. It's not the conspiracy. It's not that they hate Sidney Powell and her case is not working. It's none of those things. As a matter of fact, none of the judges that have made any decisions so far, either for or against the Trump administration, has seen any of the evidence. And so the press and everybody, we need to see the evidence. Why? How come they're not showing us evidence? The judges have not even seen the evidence, you dipwits. The judges have not, and they've made decisions based on not seeing the evidence, which is kind of stupid. It's just we're just getting their opinion. And so just knock it off. You're being dumb and you're being stupid. Watch a couple Law and Order episodes and you'll see that what you're saying is completely wrong. And the reason I say Law and Order, because it's a TV show, and you can learn some things from a TV show that it is really silly, the things that they're bringing up on these shows. And again, some of them are claiming to be attorneys. Some of them are claiming to be judges, and they're saying things that are completely not true. When they say them, I'm looking, I go, man, the 200 cases that I've been involved in U.S. federal courts, what they're saying is not true. It's not happening. And so it's just really, I don't know. You don't even know. And you can see the average person who's, UPS driver or a teacher or whatever, trying to figure it all out is getting confused. I have the advantage that I actually work in federal court cases on the border and across the United States in almost every state I've been in. I've not been in Alaska yet, but I have had a case in Alaska, but I've not testified in Alaska. I've testified in Hawaii. I've testified in Canada. And almost every state in the union, I've testified in a federal state court case involving some aspect of criminal activity, both civil and criminal. And so I find it odd when I'm hearing a so-called expert on the news talk about something that is completely untrue, as if they've never been in a courtroom. And I think that's the case. I'm telling you, there's a lot of people that become attorneys that never spend any time in a courtroom. And it's almost like a police officer can go his entire career without shooting somebody, right? And so you would not have that officer necessarily go to the police academy to talk about what it's like to be involved in a shooting. But that's what it's like, right? So I've been involved in a couple shootings. I've been shot at a couple times and that kind of stuff. So if they called Andy and they said, Andy, hey, we our instructor for this particular part of the course, it's an hour-long course on officer-involved shootings. Can you come and talk about your experience? I would be able to do that. But if they talk to one of my friends, I won't say his name, but I have friends, a lot of friends who maybe have barely even pulled their gun out their entire career. And so they would call them and they would say, well, I don't have any experience in that. So you wouldn't necessarily want an officer who's never been involved in a shooting of any kind go and teach in a class, an hour-long class to attendees of a police academy about all this extensive knowledge involved in shootings. I said, so not only have I been involved in shooting, not I had to shoot somebody and be shot at, but I also have taught police officers throughout the United States on tactics involving safety, shootings, getting from point A to point B without getting shot in the head. I've taught thousands of police officers throughout the United States. So I'm just telling you this because would you want me to come teach a class for an hour, or would you want the guy who's never been involved in a shooting and never taught a class on tactics or officer-involved shootings? Go there and teach a class. Which one would? And so I think what's happening is that on television, because they couldn't get a job doing anything else, you have these people that are talking about something that they know nothing about. They've never been involved in any major criminal case investigation from beginning to end, and they've probably never been in a courtroom where they've either had to ask questions of witnesses and suspects and what have you on the stand. And those are the people that you're finding on television talk about crap they know nothing about. And so that's why you're getting this really bizarre, weird information that's really strange. All right, let's listen to Dan Bongino on the show today. It's about 2 minutes of his show, talking similarly about what it is that I've been talking about. And again, and I like to do this only because I want you to get a different perspective and not always only my perspective, because I want you to understand that there's other people that have the same knowledge and same type of background as I do. All right, so here's the Dan Bongino show, and Sidney Powell will be interviewed, and you'll hear what she has to say about some of the stuff. This is from today's show, by the way. I will share the link in the comments after I get done with this particular message. Here we go.
Why the eagerness to say, I told you so? Maybe she should send your energy elsewhere. If she embarrassed herself and doesn't have the information, she's going to have to suffer the ramifications. Now, here's what I think is going on with Sidney Powell's case. Listen, I don't know about this international Venezuelan conspiracy, okay? I have no idea what the details of that. Does it have to do with Dominion, Smartmatic? I don't know. I'm only guessing because I'm not on Sidney Powell's legal team. Having said that, she made a clear reference there. Did you catch it, Joe? Did you hear it? She talked about Georgia. She made a very clear case during that Newsmax thing that it involved Georgia. And if she was a law enforcement officer, she'd be looking into it now, meaning she believes a law was violated in the state of Georgia. I think what she's saying there, trying to translate here, I've not spoken to Sidney Powell on this, full disclosure. I have spoken to other members of the Trump legal team, again, complete disclosure. I have not spoken to Sidney Powell. My guess is there are two arguments. The international conspiracy thing she's alleging, I'm not sure about that. I'm reasonably confident, though, listening to this, and a clip I'll play next to Sidney Powell and Maria Bartiromo, that what she's alleging is some potential money exchanged in the state of Georgia to use a voting system that people in Georgia may have known had issues. Everybody tracking? I'm trying to make this very simple. Joe's audience on Budsman. Does that make sense, Paula?
That's an easy one, yeah.
It's an easy one. Now, How do I know this? Again, I have not spoken to Sidney because I've spent the weekend reading and listening to what she's saying and trying to parse through it. This clip from Maria Bartiromo with Sidney Powell, and it is very telling, where she gets a little more specific about her case in Georgia, which, if these allegations are true, are very disturbing. Money exchanging hands to use a voting system that could have had issues they knew about. Check this clip out.
You said that there may have been kickbacks to some people who accepted the Dominion software. Tell me what you mean.
Well, I mean, we are collecting evidence now from various whistleblowers that are aware of substantial sums of money being given to family members of state officials who bought this software. I mean, we're talking about $100 million packages for new voting machines suddenly in multiple states, and benefits ranging from financial benefits for family members to sort of what I would call election insurance, because they know that they can win the election if they are using that software. It's really an insidious, corrupt system, and I can't tell you how livid I am with our government for not paying attention to complaints even brought by Democrats, Carolyn Maloney, Elizabeth Warren, Amy Klobuchar, over the last several years in written letters with expert reports and some documentation of how corrupt the software is, and nobody in our government has paid any attention to it, which makes me wonder how much the CIA has used it for its own benefit in different places, and why Gina Haspel is still there and the CIA is beyond my comprehension. She should be fired immediately.
Well, so I wanted to play that because do you see how different her case is in regard to like whether a ballot was folded or whether there was a signature on ballots or whether they were the number of ballots. So 100 absentee ballots went out to voters and 200 came back. Her case, I'm not going to say it's more complicated because I think they're both complicated, but is just different. And you just could not mix the two. When she's talking about payoffs to government employees, to family members, to make sure that the software was used. And then again, now we go out internationally where it's a software created in Canada that's being administered from a Venezuela IP address. And the counting is happening in Germany. So slightly different cases that's going on here. And did she sound like she's not involved in the case? Does she sound like she got fired? Is she like, I got fired and I'm not working any longer? No, she's telling you that she's and she's livid that Democrats were the ones in the beginning 3, 4, 5 years ago who were the ones that were talking about this software and how corrupt it was and how that shouldn't be trusted. The Democrats brought it to the attention of the CIA, and they did nothing about it. But now that it looks like it's worked for them and against Donald Trump, now they're all silent. Now they're going, oh no, it's perfectly fine. 5 years ago, it was a horrible bit of software. It was a horrible that city and county employees and state employees were getting paid off, and their family was getting. Then it was horrible. But now that it's happening and it's benefiting us and not Trump, it's perfectly fine and not a big deal. And that's why Sidney Powell's case is so different than what's happening with Jenna and Rudy and what it is that they're putting together, and not all the other crap that you're hearing. And I think I saw somebody, who was it? Was it Dawn? Yeah, thanks for clearing up her, is that she was fired. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I heard on some social media. Justin, glad you're here. Thank you for watching. I'm glad you're here with me. I'm glad that you're proud of it because we need a bunch of people like you. From SoCal, we got Kathy from Florida. Awesome. By the way, the best state that did the best job, right? What was it? 8 years ago, 12 years ago, whatever it was, they were the worst state for voting. And now they are the quintessential state you look at on how you handle voting. And everybody should have just said, let's just do what Florida's doing. And that we wouldn't be in this position. But of course, that's not what they wanted. They've been working on this for a couple of years. They knew exactly what was going to do. And then the pandemic came and they go, oh my gosh, this is the best thing ever. We can now say that it's too dangerous to vote. And now we can send out all of these absentee ballots We can, you know what, you know, I want to know if this was part of the plan. I know. We'll send out 500 and 1,000 will come back. And nobody will ever know. Like, we'll send out 100 and 200 will come back, whatever the number is. I don't know. And they've been working on this for a very long time. The pandemic was like a gift from Satan, right? The pandemic was a gift from Satan. So they go, wow. Unless, again, we can even go so deep in the deep state to say that this also was part of the plan. I know, as we get closer to election, we're going to unleash this China virus, this kung flu, and we're gonna release it onto the country, and then we're gonna be able to, like, you could actually, based on everything that you've learned over the last 4 years that they were capable of, and the lies that they were capable of keeping going, and that they were actually able to put together an impeachment based all exclusively on a lie, nothing true. I saw somebody comment from Twitter. Where's the comment from Twitter? Somebody, please, with Trump racism. I'm not sure if that's English. I'm not sure if that's not really a complete sentence or a sentence. You know, I think they need to go, either there's something wrong. It's their head. Please, with Trump racism. I didn't say anything about Trump's racism. I didn't say anything that I don't even know what she's talking about. If that's a she, ice chocolate. Is there such a thing as ice chocolate? But either way, it's a stupid comment, right? It has nothing to do with anything. That's just one of those lies that they've built up over the years, that this person is so stupid and moronic that they actually believe what they're told, that Donald Trump is a racist. That is their, I don't know, that is their truth that they've heard over the last several years. Very, very strange. Voter ID and the freaking man. Yeah, I mean, it's just I mean, this is really easy. Look at what Florida did, and you have the solutions. Just look at that. They did it, right? There were other states too. I'm not sure what the other ones were, but I know that there were 1 or 2 other states that did it well. But Florida was the one that, if you look at it, did a great job, right? And Texas too, maybe in most areas, maybe not every area. But for sure, Florida did a great job. I did say he had the best election fraud team. Yeah, he did. He actually said that he had the best election fraud team in place. That's why he didn't have to go do anything. He could have 5 or 6 people in those little circles, and that was his entire rally audience that he was speaking to. He didn't need to do anything. He didn't need to do much. Come on, man. Orange man is bad. I know he's bad. So hopefully I've been able to clear some of it up a little bit so that you're not also wondering, like, why did this happen? It had to happen. There was. Again, messaging is one of those things where you're coming on and you're doing a press briefer, and now you have Sidney, Powell, and you have Rudy, and you have Jenna talking about election fraud. And when all 3 of them are talking, they're essentially talking about 2 different cases, 2 different investigations, but they're talking about them as if they're one, and it causes confusion with the American people. And so I think somebody must have saw that and said, no, let's not do that again, because it's too confusing. You guys are talking about an international investigation and criminal case, and then ours is corruption and criminal case involving county and state issues, many of them, like several hundreds of different incidents of thousands of votes to 10,000 votes to 100,000 votes. They're all a bunch of different cases. The problem is, you take one of those and you get, that one's wrong, and it's only 10,000. That's not going to change the election. You need to have wins in a whole shitload. Sorry, a whole shitload of these cases for them to actually, for the Supreme Court to get it and say, you know what, we had like 500 different situations where it cost the president, 500,000 to 1 million votes. So yes, we need to do it again, or whatever the ruling is. So you need a bunch of wins. Where Sidney's case is just that software, essentially, and I may be simplifying it a little bit too much, but you just got to prove that the software was used in an illegal way, with payoffs to county and state representatives and their family members. You take that package, you go before the Supreme Court with that package. That's entirely different. She's talking about millions of votes, going from 71 million votes for President Trump to 80 million votes for President Trump. Essentially, I think what I'm hearing her say is up to 10 million votes were stolen from Donald Trump, that the president actually received those votes, and the software itself was used to flip-flop the votes in the favor of Joe Biden. in that case is a little bit more complicated, involved in that sense that you have to prove that somebody had a little switch there in Venezuela or Germany and said, and essentially what happened, right? We're not stupid. Nobody's really that dumb to not understand that why in 4 or 5 swing states, I'm not sure how many there were, did voting suddenly stop, and they used the lie that there was some type of flood in some basement that actually they had to stop voting, counting the votes. And so you had these all at the same time going, wait a minute, the president's winning. We need to stop. So that gives us enough time for in the morning for all these shipments of votes that we have hiding in warehouses across these different states to be brought to the convention center, wherever they're counting the votes. And now we can have those, and then we can now start counting again. But now we do it with these votes that are brought in. Or they flip the switch or corrupt the software in some way so that those votes that were coming in that were for Trump are now switched over to all Biden, that they needed time to be able to do that. That, again, is a different case and a different investigation and a different message that you're going to give to a presser and a different case you're going to take eventually to the Supreme Court, as opposed to what Rudy and Jenna are doing. So hope that all made sense. Just felt necessary to come on and talk about it. Again, if you're watching live, please comment and say hi. If you're watching the replay, would you please comment and say hi? The comments are the only thing that's going to cause it for maybe 2 or 3 more people to see it. And I would really appreciate if you would share this show out to your peeps. Because again, that's the thing that gets people to watch it, because I'm being throttled on every platform. And this video, I know for sure on Twitter will be blocked with one of those gray squares they'll put in front of it and say, this video is no longer available. Because why? Because I'm telling the truth. And I'm giving you my 20-something years of testifying in federal and state court, using my experience to give you facts, to give you truth, to share with you why I know what you're hearing in social media and the media is a lie. They're lying to you. They're lying to your face. And what they're telling you is simply not true, and it can't happen because that's not how it works in federal and state court, right? But they'll block me on Twitter because they don't want you to hear the truth. They don't want you to hear facts. And so the only way that people may see this and what it is that I have as far as experience and what I've experienced handling these cases is if you share it out personally, either the YouTube channel, all you need to go to is the AndyFalcoShow.com. The AndyFalcoShow.com. I think I have a banner for that. Hold on. I created one earlier today. So you go to that's a podcast. So you go to AndyFalcoPodcast.com to see my podcast and subscribe and share that out. Or you can go to the AndyFalcoShow.com, and that goes to the YouTube channel. The AndyFalcoShow.com, that goes to the YouTube channel. That's the easiest way to find it. I was at the event yesterday in Yorba Linda trying to find my YouTube channel on her phone, and she could not bring it up. We typed in the Andy Falco Show. We typed in Andy Falco. We typed in everything. My channel would not come up on her phone on YouTube. That's how I know. That's how I know I'm being throttled and blocked. It's on there. It's on YouTube. But I challenge you. If you can find it, that's fantastic. But I'm telling you, on her phone and then my phone, I wanted to share the link, and I couldn't bring it up on either one of my phones. So you need to go to the AndyFalcoShow.com, and that will take you. Let me just make sure that I'm getting that right. Just one second. And I'll put it in the chat. Yep, there you go. Yeah. All right, let me just go ahead and put it in there too. And that way it'll be in there. It'll go out all the different platforms. Oops. All right, just follow that link, and that'll take you to the YouTube channel. And the reason I'm sending the YouTube channel is because it's still there, and you can see it. If I send you to my Twitter page, all my shows are being blocked on Twitter. As soon as I say anything about hydroxychloroquine, which is now this will be blocked, or the election or anything like that, they put the grade. This video is no longer available. You can watch me live on Twitter through the Periscope app, but the video goes away after that. And on Facebook, again, people are subscribing to the different pages. I have 4 different pages that I broadcast on, 5 different pages I broadcast on. The COVID-19, the Andy Falco Facebook business page, the Facebook Live Facebook page, and whatnot. I forget, there's another one out there somewhere. And they too, people are subscribed and say that they're not getting notified when the shows are going live. And so there you go. There's a concept Mike Koenigs in San Diego, thankfully, taught me years ago, and that is called Be Everywhere Now. And so when I'm going live, I'm on all those different platforms. You saw somebody comment on Twitch earlier, and Twitter. So yeah, I got viewers on all the different platforms. because some people do nothing on Facebook, some people do nothing on YouTube, some people do nothing on Twitter, but they will watch on these other platforms. So you got to kind of be everywhere. And then in the end, if you want to actually see or listen to the podcast, you go to the AndyFalcoPodcast.com and you subscribe to that, and you'll get notified. I just put up 5 new episodes today, and so they're on there right now. All right, my friends, I hope all that made sense. That was all also part of it. And the reason why we need to have the Patriot Project is because of all the stuff that's going on. USPatriotProject.com needs to be in existence because we have to have other platforms like Rumble and Parler and these other news medias because we can't get the message out on Facebook. We can't get the message out on YouTube and Twitter because you got liberals that are running these companies and they're blocking them all. And so we have to be able, there have to be many of us talking about this stuff on all these different platforms so that we can reach enough people to really begin to make change in the country, to bring back, conservative Christian qualities to our country. And so we need to speak out and be as in as many places as possible. All right. So go to the USA Patriot Project and please support what's going on there so that we can continue with creating a network of shows and people talking about Christian conservative values and policies that we need to have in our schools and in our cities and our states and across the United States of America. All right, my friends, I hope that has been helpful. I do appreciate you guys very much, and I appreciate you watching and sharing and commenting and following direction so that we can address this right here. I'm going to do this one way. I think I'm going to get some different music. I liked it in the beginning, but as I'm listening to it more and more, it's not as catchy as my intro and my outro. And so I think I need to step it up. We need some more excitement. That's okay, but I think I need it to be a little bit more exciting. All right, my friends, I love you guys. Have a great, what is this today? Monday? Today's Monday, right? Have a great Monday, great rest of your week. And I'll see you before Thanksgiving, but just in case I don't see you watching, have a great Thanksgiving and be thankful for what we've been through. This is going to make us stronger. It's going to make us more active. We cannot go back to what we were before, and that is laying down, doing nothing, and pretending that these demonic liberals are not destroying our country. They are, and so we cannot go back to being silent. All right, my friends, I love you. God bless.